Welcome to the Board Matters podcast. I'm Dale Bannon with our Salvation Army National Headquarters. I am elated today to talk to who I view as the number one ambassador for Art of Echelon in the United States of America, Madi Maruna. Madi, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Dale.
For those who don't know about you, of course, we know a great deal about you in leading our Salvation Army Echelon leadership all across the country. But please tell our listeners about yourself, your vocational journey, and your family.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in a small rural town about an hour outside of Cleveland, and I practice law here in downtown Cleveland now. I'm an employment and commercial litigator, which means I'm in court fighting it out day after day, but I love it. My personal life, I'm a big time dog person. I have two dogs, one rescue pup named Intro, and a 7-month-old boxer named Voltaire, who definitely keeps me on my toes. And I am Aunt Maddie to two nieces, Coraline and Luna, and they're just my whole world. I am a big sister to two younger sisters, Nikki and Ash, and I just love being a sister and a daughter. Family's very important to me. In my spare time, of which I don't have a lot, I like to work out and I really love to cook.
Very good. And just tell our listeners, how did you come to find the Salvation Army locally and serve with your local Salvation Army?
So the first time I ever heard about the Salvation Army was through my grandma, and she told me if you're ever going to give money to a nonprofit, make it the Salvation Army because the biggest part of any dollar you give goes to actual services rather than administrative costs. And that always kind of stuck with me, and I've definitely seen that to be true through my service through the Salvation Army. But locally, I actually serve as the Salvation Army's attorney throughout all of Northeast Ohio, and that's how I got involved locally and through Echelon.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that your grandmother introduced you to the Salvation Army. What about the practice of law do you wish people knew more about?
I wish people knew that it's nothing like TV. There's no smoking gun moments for me in the courtroom. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of preparation, and there's not like these grand surprises that then blow the case wide open. And actually, if there was, I might have a heart attack. So it's nothing like TV.
And where did you go to school, Maddie, by the way?
I went to public high school in Madison, Ohio. Then I did my undergrad at John Carroll, which is a small Jesuit school in University Heights, Ohio. And then I did my law degree at Cleveland State University.
Very good. And you told us that you practice employment and commercial litigation. Are there steps employers can take in general to ensure that their employment practices comply with the law?
Yeah, one of my biggest things as a litigator is documentation. There's numerous times where I see, somebody's terminated and they were allegedly a poor employee, but there's no documentation of that. So then it's a, he said, she said game, which is difficult in court. So documentation of any, issues with employees, but as well as successes, documentation is key.
I think that's sage advice. When in doubt, write it down and make sure you have proper documentation in all areas. And how long have you practiced there in Cleveland?
About 7 years now. Yeah.
Oh, good. What do you enjoy the most about your legal profession, and what frustrates you the most?
Well, I think that what I enjoy most about being a lawyer is I essentially get paid to learn. There are different problems and issues thrown at me every single day, and it's called the practice of law for a reason. We don't have all the answers just in our head. I'm paid to research, I'm paid to learn, which I find very fun. The thing that's probably the most frustrating is honestly the way our legal system is set up. Sometimes the time delays in lawsuits. Sometimes I don't feel that it's necessarily the quickest path to justice, which is why most lawsuits settle.
And the role of mediation these days, how critical is that? Where it seems like we're more socially isolated than ever before in our country, and the idea of like two parties coming together to work it out. Um, Is mediation a lost art form in our world today, and what role does that have in your legal profession?
Mediation is huge in litigation. I actually just mediated and settled a case on Monday, and it was definitely the best result for all parties involved. And I think that in our day to day lives, mediation has fallen by the wayside, but I'm kind of forced into that situation quite often. And it usually turns up that it's the best option for all parties involved. There's certainty for the employer who I'm normally representing. There is also certainty and some finality for whoever is alleging that they were wronged. So I do think that I tend to try to translate those skills to my personal life as well. But it's huge in the legal practice.
And in terms of conflict resolution, as I'm just fascinated by your background and this topic, you know, what could you share with us about conflict resolution and interpersonal skills of relating with one another, and how to keep things out of the legal realm?
Yeah, I think one of the easiest ways to keep things out of the legal realm is to just remember to lead with love and to remember to be reasonable. Most of the lawsuits that go to trial are emotionally charged, and at the end of the day, it has nothing even to do with the dollars and cents of it. And I think that people need to remember if they're mediating or trying to work through an issue, check your ego at the door. A successful mediation, nobody is truly happy with the outcome. Both sides give and both sides walk away with certainty, but you are going to have to give to get. And I think that that's very important to remember.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we always love to have consensus, but when consensus is not possible, compromise will do. And there is a give and take on both sides. That's fascinating. Well, you shared a little bit about the Salvation Army connection. I love this idea that your grandma instilled with you the concept of being a good steward. And if you want your dollars to go far and to impact the most amount of people and go to direct services, she gave you advice about the Salvation Army. And you're a generation that the Salvation Army is trying to reach. And I'm just curious the connection in terms of Echelon. How did that come about in Cleveland? How did you get started with the Echelon movement?
So Echelon in Cleveland, it started really at the height of COVID. I was asked to be on a steering committee about 2 months before the country essentially shut down. And I was asked by one of the partners at the law firm that I work for. He had been on the local Harbor Light Council board for quite some time and was very involved with the Salvation Army and suggested that I get involved. I was always already doing a bunch of legal work for the Salvation Army, so it seemed like a no-brainer for me. And it was funny, they gathered up a group of 5 of us in the steering committee, and when COVID happened, Carol Skoglund, who ended up being our staff liaison, she came to us and said, "Do you guys still want to do this?" And it was a resounding yes from all of us.
Oh,
We
great.
really, yeah, it was kind of crazy because as you know, part of what you do when you start a new echelon chapter is recruit new members. Well, how are we going to recruit new members when we can't even meet with anybody? So we had to be very strategic and very creative. And what we did was we hosted a couple of virtual events. And then as soon as Ohio kind of opened up, we kind of hit the ground running and did hybrid events. So folks could come in person if they felt comfortable, but then we also had a virtual option for those events as well. And that proved to be a great success. And then we were chartered in April of 2021, and I've really never looked back since.
Oh, fantastic. It's fascinating to me because, the chapters who were in existence prior to COVID lost a lot of ground. It's just interesting to me that you started Echelon chapter in the middle of COVID. And I think it's perfect when you think about that isolationism that I was talking about, where we become more socially isolated. During COVID, I think there was sort of this desire of being connected to other people and peer groups. And do you think that was part of the success?
Yeah, I think that when we started specifically doing some in person and hybrid events, People were eager to get out, especially young people. Folks had already been vaccinated at that point, so people were eager to get out and start being around each other again, and have those opportunities for social connections, even if they chose to do the virtual option. So, yeah, I definitely think we were pretty aggressive with that, and it paid off.
For someone who's new to this podcast and they're hearing, what is echelon? You're probably one of the best to describe it. Could you describe what echelon is for the Salvation Army?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Salvation Army is really innovative in that it recognized that it needed to take a targeted approach at inviting the next generation into the Salvation Army, the mission, volunteerism, and donating. And Echelon is the Salvation Army's answer for that. It is a young professional group that's based in community service. And we host community service and networking events throughout the year. There's a lot of autonomy for us who run the Echelon boards. We get to make a lot of decisions as to how the funds that we raise are utilized. And sorry, little visitor here. And we really get the opportunity to help the Salvation Army further its mission. And there are 42 chapters nationwide now, and we have about 13 in development. So Echelon's going strong.
And you, I believe, were the chapter president in Cleveland, and then you got connected to sort of the National Echelon Leadership Council. And talk about that experience and how were you able to go from chapter president to now serving as our Echelon Leadership Council president?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was the president of the Cleveland chapter for 4 years, and I really enjoyed that role. I mean, Cleveland Echelon is my baby. I was there since inception, and it's really been a thriving Echelon chapter. The folks on the board here, they're really friends at this point, some of my best friends. And when I joined the Echelon Leadership Council, I was very honored to be considered. The Echelon Leadership Council actually leads all of the Echelon chapters nationwide. And I served as the Central Territory representative for 2 years on the Echelon Leadership Council. So I was helping all of the Central Territory Echelon chapters with any questions they had, helping them be successful with any national initiatives. So I really enjoyed that role and kind of got my feet wet from a national perspective. And then I had the opportunity this year in January of 2025 to take over as the Echelon Leadership Council chair after Anil Kapoor stepped down after a very successful leadership run. And I was excited to pick up the ball where he left it and continue to assist Echelon chapters nationwide.
You're listening to the Board Matters podcast, where we highlight the Salvation Army's most dedicated board members and volunteers serving around the country every day. For more information about the Salvation Army, visit salvationarmyusa.org. If you're an advisory organization member and need resources for growing your local advisory organization or board, visit mysaboard.org or aohub.org. And now, back to the Board Matters podcast.
Well, and you're doing an amazing job. I mean, to think that we'll be at 50 chapters probably within 6 months, I think, because of your good work. And that Echelon Leadership Council is so pivotal. You're meeting with really a lot of chairs or past chairs around the country. You're providing tools and resources for all of these chapters, whether you're developing or you're one of the most amazing chapters. We have so many of them. You also help host sort of the Echelon National Symposium in the last couple of years. I think we've had 3 of them now, which has been pretty exciting. Tell us about what the National Echelon Symposium is.
So the National Symposium, it happens every other year, and it's where the Echelon Leadership Council brings all of the Echelon leaders together nationwide to allow for learning and fellowship, and really helping those leaders engage and further their Echelon chapters. I was actually an attendee at the first Echelon symposium, and that was held in Alexandria, Virginia, at national headquarters. And then I was part of hosting the second one when I was on the ELC, which was also held in Alexandria. And actually, it was really exciting. This year, we hosted our first one in LA. And it was very exciting because we actually outgrew the national headquarters. So we had to move locations. And I mean, it was funny. We were joking. The cadets at the training college in LA that we met said, oh, yeah, we're suffering for Jesus here in LA. So we were making that joke throughout. Symposium, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful campus, beautiful views, lots of fellowship, and we had about 111 attendees. So we were really blessed.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was there as well, and I've been a part of all three of them. And I remember we ran out of elbow space here at national headquarters, and just so happens that one of our territorial headquarters has this beautiful overlook of the Pacific Ocean, and I would agree, it's quite a suffering for Jesus moment there.
Yes.
Maddie, I'm just so struck and I'm really encouraged by your generation. We hear often that because the Salvation Army, obviously, our mission is faith centered. We preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and meet human needs in his name without discrimination. There's a lot of criticism always with the next generation, and that there might not be this tie to faith and Christianity. What would you say to people who are skeptical about, recruiting the next generation to come alongside this evangelical organization who has proudly proclaims that we preach the gospel and meet human needs in his name without discrimination? Is it possible? Is the next generation interested in an institution that's existed for well over 150 years with the same mission?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think that, the next generation is interested in faith and does have faith. I think that how it's expressed is just a little bit different. I think that hands-on community service and coming together in a very meaningful and tangible way is one of the expressions of faith that the younger generation really appreciates. But that's why I think the Salvation Army is so relevant. It really gives younger folks an outlet for that kind of hands-on faith community service activity that they might be lacking, quite frankly, in some of the other organizations that they're a part of. I also really think that the Salvation Army does a nice job where um, sometimes I feel like some religious based organizations, it can feel rather pushy, right? So if you're not part of that faith, you feel like maybe I can't join. But the Salvation Army, although it is a faith based organization, what they are about is helping people. And I think that that is something that can resonate with believers and non-believers alike. So that faith component is there and it's present in echelon chapters, but I don't think that it is prohibitive if somebody says, hey, I'm kind of lapsed on my faith, or I'm not really invested in my faith at this point, but I still want to be involved in community service. And actually, maybe that's an opportunity to get them more invested in their faith.
Yeah, well, I think that's fantastic, and I agree. The idea of rolling up your sleeves first and helping suffering humanity, I think, unites us all, doesn't it? And
Yes.
the motivation for, as always, is the love of Christ. And but I'm really inspired by your generation, and I think for any Salvation Army listening that has just thought about considering starting a young professionals group, starting Echelon, uh, Maddie's a great example of this next generation who during the pandemic said, we care, we want to get together, and we want to help our local Salvation Army. So I would encourage you to learn more, to contact your division or territory. They'll get you connected with Maddie and a terrific group of leaders who can walk alongside you. Um, just in short, what has the Echelon experience meant to you, and what keeps you serving through Echelon?
I mean, echelon is literally part of my everyday. A day doesn't go by where I'm not doing something for echelon. So it's really become, a part of who I am. I think that for me, serving for echelon really allows me to feel really connected to the Cleveland community. I've lived in the area since I was born. I work at a law firm here, but how well do I truly know my city, right? And the residents that actually live here. And I think that Echelon really gives me the opportunity to do that. And from a national perspective, just seeing the breadth of the Salvation Army, the caliber of just experience and professionalism on the National Advisory Board is second to none. And I am so blessed to have those folks as mentors. That has been just huge in my career. So I think that Echelon for me has, allowed me to give back and open doors for me that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Great. Well, I knew and I met you at, I think, the first symposium. I had a hunch that you would be serving on the Echelon Leadership Council board soon. And by the way, Mess said, and she'll be our chair someday. So it's so great that it worked out. And it's just a privilege and joy to work alongside you, Maddie. And thanks for your service. I do have a lightning round now. You love dogs, obviously. And so glad your dog is part of our podcast today. Do you prefer walking your dogs or time at the dog park?
Walking my dogs. Yeah, sometimes dog parks can be a little bit too rowdy, and you have some irresponsible dog owners. And walking my dogs is very like calming for me. I usually walk them in the morning. It's, half hour, just me and them in nature, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, and dogs love a walk, don't they?
They do, they do.
Yeah. I have a German Shepherd, and she either has the ball in her mouth or the chain ready to go for me. You were going over to a friend's potluck for dinner. What do you bring?
Charcuterie board.
Oh, very good.
Yes,
And how
yes.
do you organize it? Does it have like everything and it has designs on it, or you just like throw the meat and cheese on the platter?
No, mine has like nice designs, and I'm very into like the extras, like the spicy jams. And I'm also pescatarian, so I don't eat meat. So I always have like, the traditional salami and that for folks that want it, but I try and be a little creative with what I put on the platter as well.
Oh, great. I can't wait to have a potluck at the next symposium. That's great.
Yes.
If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
Learning another language for sure. Being fluent in another language. Probably French because Paris is my favorite city in the world. So probably learning French.
Oh, very good. What a goal. Coffee or tea?
Coffee all the way. I'm a big coffee person and I drink about 5 cups a day.
Wow. I thought you had a lot of energy. I can't imagine 5 cups of coffee. My goodness. Starbucks, Dunkin's, are you like a loyal fan of one of those?
So I like to brew my own. I fresh grind the beans every morning. But I also like a local coffee spot in Cleveland. It's called Rising Star. It's really good.
Oh, awesome. I can't wait to visit that sometime when I come to Cleveland. Someone told me we were going to go for a local coffee shop, by the way. One of your favorite places you traveled to, I think it has to be Paris from what you've just answered on the other one.
Well, I love traveling to Paris. Love it. I go there quite often, but actually probably the favorite place I've ever visited is San Sebastian, Spain. It's a little beach town. It's very small, but it actually has one of the highest concentrations of Michelin star restaurants in the world. And it's just very like a slow paced, if you want to relax environment. And I love it there.
Sounds beautiful. Name one pet peeve. You've been in a lot of courtrooms and probably business meetings as well, but one pet peeve you have, I'm going to say in a courtroom, one pet peeve you have in a courtroom.
One pet peeve in a courtroom. I guess I think people talking over each other. First of all, I think it's rude in any scenario, but it happens quite often in courtrooms because listen, we're advocates. We're fighting for our client. We're trying to be heard by the judge and get the best possible outcome. But at the end of the day, you have to take a step back and remember there's professionalism and there's common courtesy. And talking over somebody just to make your own point is never a good move.
Yeah, agreed. Maddie, you've been around the Salvation Army now for a good 6, 7 years, maybe 6, I think it sounded like, maybe longer. If you were in London and the general said, I want you to be the general for a day of the Salvation Army International work, what is one thing that you would do?
I think that I would go to Africa for the day to experience all the good work that the Salvation Army does there. At our most recent symposium, Commissioners Heatwell were able to offer some perspective as to all of the good work that the Salvation Army does internationally. And I know that a large concentration of the Salvation Army efforts are in Africa. And my brother-in-law is actually from Zambia, so one of my nieces is half Zambian, and I know that the Salvation Army operates a large hospital there in that country. So I'd probably go visit that.
Yeah, I think there's a hospital, Chicken-Kata, Zambia, I believe.
Yes.
That's one of the famous ones. And I've heard of, we had amazing work in Kenya, for example. And the Salvation Armies, fastest growing Salvation Armies in the world are happening in African countries. So that's a great goal and to visit there. Maybe someday you'll get to do that and visit with our Salvation Army. Well, Maddie, you had a mantle of leadership upon your shoulders, not only locally, but also with the Echelon Leadership Council. Is there anything that I can pray for you today as we close out this podcast?
One of our big initiatives right now for Echelon is our Red Kettle takeover. And I'm sure you're already praying for, all of the volunteers that are standing at the Red Kettles and ringing, and all of the folks that are helping to raise funds digitally. But I think if we just double down on those prayers, that can help us be able to help the most folks this Christmas season. So that's my ask.
Great. Well, I appreciate that because the Red Kettle is so important to our local Salvation Armies. And that kettle's been in existence since 1891.
Wow.
It's a part of the American tradition. When people hear the bell and they see the tripod and the kettle, they know this is an opportunity for neighbors to help their neighbors in need. And for Echelon to embrace that as a national initiative is quite remarkable. And I know you're going to far exceed the numbers from even last year. So it's our privilege to pray for the Red Kettle campaign and for Echelon chapters all over the country. Let us pray. All right, God, I thank you so much for this time. Just thank you for all that you do for us. We stand amazed that you would use us to help reach others for you, to help build your kingdom. I thank you for leaders like Madi and all of her good work, not only locally with the Salvation Army, with the National Echelon Leadership Council. I just pray your blessing upon her and her family this Christmas season. And there's a particular request, Father. We ask that you bless the Red Kettle campaign. So important to help support our local Salvation Armies nationwide, to help serve suffering humanity, and pray for the Echelon members who are going to be taking over their kettle in the next couple of weeks, that you'll just bless their efforts. You'll bring people out to bring hope and joy to others, and that you'll help bring donors to those kettles as they ring with joy. And now, Father, I thank you for this time. Again, I thank you for Maddie and her leadership. Bless Echelon and all that it means to you and to the Salvation Army. In Christ's name, I make this prayer. Amen.
Amen.